Gotta go to work. Yes.
Welcome, everyone. February 28th, 2019, Prescott Valley Regular Town Council meeting. Tonight, our invocation is going to be done by Pastor Don Tijima. And our pledge will be done by Miss Emma in the front row. So, Don, will you please come up first?
Join me in prayer, please. Loving Heavenly Father, the one thing that we all have in common is a Creator who spoke this earth and the heavens and everything that exists here into existence. You're all powerful. You're almighty. You're all wise. You're all seeing. You're always present. Father, we invite your presence here to give this council the wisdom that they need to help govern over this beautiful place that we call Prescott Valley. A place that you envisioned as you created this earth would be a beautiful place for people to just come and hang out and make a career, retire in. Father, we pray for our police as they govern our streets and keep things in order. Keep your hand of protection upon them and the firemen as well. Father, thank you for all good blessings that you give us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See you later.
Thank you, Emma. And thank you, Don.
Okay. Thank you.
Clerk, will you please call roll?
Mayor Palguda,
Present.
Vice Mayor Nye,
Here.
Councilmember Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Grossman,
Still here.
Councilmember Mallory,
Here.
Councilmember Schumacher,
Here.
and Councilmember Packard.
Here.
We have a quorum there.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to start with proclamations, and the first group will be for Youth Arts Month. So come on down.
I'm surprised I don't see Glenn Powell in the audience.
Yeah, I know.
Right here, I have no sign. Right. So just come over this way. See? No sign.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor Palguda and distinguished council members. Youth Art Month is a month of promoting art and art education in the United States. It is observed in March with thousands of American schools participating, often with the involvement of local art museums and civic organizations. This year, the town is holding its 16th annual Youth Art Month exhibition in Prescott Valley, which is sponsored by the Arts and Culture Commission. Local schools are invited to display their students' work in the Civic Center, and starting this year, the Prescott Valley Public Library. Each year, a jury selects outstanding artwork from different age categories to win prizes, and winning students are recognized at the annual artist reception. The reception is open to the public, and this year will be held on Wednesday, March 6th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. on the third floor of the Civic Center. The artwork will be on display from March 1st through April 1st in the Civic Center and Prescott Valley Public Library for the public to enjoy. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce a project that the Arts and Culture Commission has initiated with our local Boys and Girls Club. Please refer to this handout.
Oh, that's what that is.
Must I?
Oh, yes. I like it.
The project entitled Solaris is being created under my supervision with a 15-member team from the ages of 7 to 14 years of age. The sculpture is approximately 75% complete and comprised of 90% recycled donated materials. Solaris is intended to be a creative thank you to the Northern Arizona Sons and other benefactors that contributed the financial resources required to construct the Boys and Girls Club Annex. The sculpture will be installed in the annex entry and presented during the April dedication. Thank you for recognizing the importance of the Youth Art Month program, and we hope you all enjoy the displays. Thank you.
Clerk, will you please read the proclamation?
Youth Arts Month, March 2019. Whereas art education contributes powerful educational benefits to all elementary and secondary students, including the following: developing students' creative problem-solving and critical thinking abilities, teaching sensitivity to beauty, order, and other expressive qualities, giving students a deeper understanding of a multicultural values and beliefs, reinforcing and bringing to life what students learn in other subjects, and interrelating student learning in art production, art history, art criticism, and aesthetics. And whereas our national leaders have acknowledged the necessity of including art experiences in all students' education, and whereas the Prescott Valley Arts and Culture Commission supports continued arts education and public art programs, therefore be it resolved that support should be given to art teachers as they attempt to strengthen art education in their schools and communities, and therefore be resolved that we celebrate youth art in Prescott Valley with a month-long display of art and a day-long event, Family Arts Festival. Therefore, our Kel Balguda, Mayor of Prescott Valley, am pleased to hereby proclaim the month of March 2019 as Youth Arts Month.
Folks, I don't know if you guys, how much into arts you are, but I myself, I can barely even make a paper airplane for my kids. So you have got to go over to now, it's going to be here at the library as well as what we have over at Town Hall, and just see what, I mean, we have first graders and second graders putting together some really impressive things, and just take the time to just wander over there and just see what's going on, and you'll be impressed.
I also want you to make a point of thanking the teachers and various staff, because they've been in the two buildings for 2 days putting up all this wonderful work the children have created. And I stopped myself to thank a couple of them, but I think they need a little more appreciation other than just for me.
All right, next up is a proclamation for Purple Heart City. Who do we have representing? Come on, everyone, come on down there.
Purple Heart Month, February 28, 2019. Whereas the town of Prescott Valley declares its support of the members of the armed forces who have been wounded or who have died in the hands of our nation's enemies by becoming a Purple Heart City. And whereas the town of Prescott Valley recognizes that veterans pay the high price of freedom by leaving their families and communities and placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas the Purple Heart is specifically a combat decoration and is our nation's oldest military medal, it was first created by General George Washington in 1782 and was known as the Badge of Military Merit. It is the predecessor of the Purple Heart Medal. And whereas the Purple Heart is awarded to members of the Armed Forces of the United States who are wounded by an instrument of war in the hands of the enemy, and posthumously to the next of kin in the name of those who are killed in action or who die of wounds received in action. And whereas the heritage the Purple Heart represents is sacred to those who understand the price paid to wear it. And now, therefore, I, Kel Palguda, Mayor of Prescott Valley, Arizona, do hereby proclaim Prescott Valley, Arizona as a Purple Heart City and encourage all citizens to recognize and honor the service and sacrifice of our nation's men and women of the armed forces who were wounded or killed by the enemy while serving to protect the freedoms enjoyed by our communities and nation.
There's really nothing I can say enough about what you guys have done and what you guys mean to our country. When I was a little kid, I was big into comic books. So I was just Superman and Spider-Man, and my dad would always talk to me about superheroes. And one day, I was about 6 years old, he said, "You know who the real superheroes are? It's the men and women who fought for our country, who got injured and got killed." And I never forgot that, and it truly stands today. You gentlemen up here represent the superheroes. And for that, I thank you.
Mayor, City Council, on behalf of the combat wounded men and women of Prescott Valley, we appreciate this proclamation today, and we thank you for all that the city will do, and we do have something to present to you after we do this. Mayor, the governor has proclaimed August 7th as Purple Heart Day for Arizona. And it's my honor to present you with a Purple Heart flag that you may fly on that day.
Absolutely.
And we'd also like to present you with a Purple Heart Combat Wounded parking sign that you might find a place that put that up at City Hall.
Absolutely.
Right.
No, that sounds great.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, Well, that was pretty impressive. I mean, I can't think anything more great than just seeing those gentlemen up here tonight. So that was awesome.
I agree.
So we're moving on. I believe Councilman Grossman is going to present us with Student of the Month right now. Student of the Month is going to be Emma Steverson.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, we have Emma Steverson here. She is the Student of the Month. For those of you that are not aware, the Optimist Club of Yavapai County, in collaboration with Bradshaw Mountain High School and the town of Prescott Valley, are honoring the outstanding student for February, Emma Steverson. This honor is being presented because of the nomination and recommendation of her school staff and instructors at Bradshaw Mountain High School. Again, this is not a popularity contest that she had among students. This is done by staff who have recognized her and her abilities. And it's not always based totally on her academic achievements. There's a whole combination that they use, and court could, I'm sure, easily get into that. Okay, and I will read her bio. But before I read her bio, if anybody has gone to Prescott Center for the Arts, Yavapai Community College, Park Avenue Theater, Footlight Productions, Lonesome Valley Playhouse, Bradshaw Mountain High School, and Liberty Traditional School, you have probably seen Emma perform in a play or a musical or some other production put on by that school. I won't read them all, but I have 2.5 pages of her performance items that she's done in school and in theater, and I know I have seen her several times because I'm a regular participant at the Prescott Center for the Arts, so that is a free plug for them. Okay, now here's her bio. All right. Emma Steverson recently performed as first chair soprano in the all-regional choir. She has performed in multiple stage productions and ensembles, continually honing her skills in music. Emma is a senior member of Voce Sorello, I hope I pronounced that right, a select youth choir at Yavapai College, and studies voice, piano, and dance. She maintains a GPA in the top of her class and is actively involved in activities and service outside school hours. Emma currently volunteers as a mentor with Applause, a program designed for kids with special needs to learn theater and performing skills alongside their peers. She aspires to pursue degrees and a career in music, performance, and education. And then, just to let you know, when we're done here, she's got to go and do a performance somewhere. So she could tell us about that when she's up here. Right now, I'd like to bring up Court Miner, the principal for Bradshaw Mountain High School, to talk a little bit about Emma, and then we'll bring up Butch Miller to make the presentation.
Thank you, Marty. Mayor Palguda, Vice Mayor Nye, council members, distinguished guests, my name is Court Miner, and Marty did a really nice job of kind of giving me an intro there. I want to make sure you understand that Emma is nominated by teachers, not by administration. It's the staff that nominates her and sees all the great things that she does. Marty did a great job of talking about her skill and her talents with music, with acting, and as a musician. But I have about 40 seniors, all right, that choose, because they've done well in their studies and they're on track to graduate, they have chosen to have a home release first period. All right, so they don't have to show up to school for second period, till second hour. Then I got about another 40 seniors, again, on track to graduate, who have chosen to pick seventh hour, the end of the day, all right, to leave. Emma is way beyond on track to graduate, all right, and she has chosen to not take the time off in the morning. She spends her first period in Mr. Goodman's class working with some special needs students. But her day doesn't end there. She then meets those students at lunch and sits and eats lunch with them every day. And you want to talk about smiles. You want to talk about energy that these kids have hanging out with a cool kid, you know, every stinking day on our campus. It goes beyond just her being an incredible student on our campus. Yes, she's got a 4.39 GPA. Yes, she's in the top 4% of the class. But more importantly, I'm so proud of my staff on finding a student that just makes a difference on our campus every day. And I'm just so proud to introduce Emma Steverson.
Before we have Emma come and speak, we have Butch Miller here from the Optimist Club, and he has a presentation to give to her.
Emma, the motto of the Optimist Club is bringing out the best in youth, and you exemplify that. I am very pleased on behalf of the Optimist Club of Yavapai County to present you with this certificate as Student of the Month of Bradshaw Mountain High School, and this paperweight that indicates Student of the Month from the Optimist Club.
Emma, why don't you say a few words and introduce who's here with you as well?
I'd like to thank the town of Prescott Valley and the Optimist Club and Bradshaw Mountain High School and my parents for really for this recognition, and my family for really teaching me and raising me well. My mom's here with me.
Go ahead, say a few words, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Court Minor, Bradshaw Mountain High School, and the Optimist Club. Of course, I'm very proud of my daughter. She's my second of four. Beautiful children, and so proud of her dedication to her skills and her craft. She knows her priorities. It's her faith, it's her family, and it's her friends. And beyond that, something special about Emma, she has the kindest heart. She is genuine, she is compassionate, and she sheds light to anybody that knows her. That's a trait that not everybody carries. And I'm so proud that that's the person that she is. And you can tell by the things she's involved in, the kind of things she likes to surround herself with and what sheds light in her life as well. So thank you for this honor, and we're very grateful.
All right, next up is Chamber of Commerce, and I believe Mr. Brady Cabral will be representing.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. So my name is Brady. I'm with the Prescott Valley Chamber of Commerce. We are constantly watching this community grow. Today, I actually don't have the pleasure to introduce a new business. I am introducing a business that has been in the area for a long time, is locally owned. In fact, I would say Eric's probably about as local as they get. I would just like to introduce Eric Meinhardt of Newman High Country Doors.
So I'm Eric Meinhardt, owner of Newman High Country Doors, born and raised here in Prescott back in 1986, so pretty old. Newman Doors has been in the community out here in Prescott Valley since 1975. Just a hometown company. I'm nervous. We specialize in garage doors, accessories, openers, remotes, etc. Residential, commercial, mainly residential, higher-end custom homes. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have.
Where are you located, and how do they get a hold of you?
I'm located in Prescott Valley here over on 8920 East Valley Road. We have a website, nhcdoors.com, and I'm all over Money in the Mail. Mainly, if you Google Newman High Country Doors, you'll find us on Google. So,
thank you. And we often talk about mom and pop shops in town or that keep things going. And this is truly an example. This is an individual who takes ownership in the community. He didn't mention it, but he's also a Little League T-ball coach. He's someone that donates to other youth activities as a business, and it's people like this that make Prescott Valley shine. So thank you. All right, now we're to the certificate part. We're going to start with youngest to oldest on years of service. So Latoya, come on down.
NC. N as in Newman.
Go ahead,
Latoya
Clerk.
Muse has been a diligent and positive member of the town of Prescott Valley staff for 5 years as a full-time employee and 3 as a seasonal employee. She started her journey with the town as a pool employee in the spring of 2011, where she returned for the next 2 seasons. In the fall of 2013, she joined the management service team as a temporary customer accounts representative. After 4 short months, she was promoted to full-time. For the next 3.5 years, Latoya assisted the residents of Prescott Valley with their water bills. She is the epitome of service with a smile. In July of 2017, Latoya was promoted to her current role as administrative supervisor, where she oversees the mailroom operations and performs a multitude of tasks to assist the management services managers and director. Her efforts towards continual improvement of various processes show her dedication to making our town the very best it can be. Not only is she instrumental in the budget process and preparation of the budget book, she continually uses her creativity to help add artistic flavor to sometimes dry financial documents. She can be credited with designing the beautiful covers and taking many of the photographs that are utilized in the town of Prescott Valley's budget book, CAFR, PAFR, and monthly financial reports. In addition to completing her regular tasks, Latoya is always willing to step up and assist other team members with whatever is needed, as well as continually serving others in the community. For the last 2.5 years, Latoya has been an enthusiastic member of the Town Wellness Committee, currently holding the office of Secretary. She has been an instrumental member of the Employee Gala Planning Committee for the last 2 years, including organizing some pretty awesome dance routines. Latoya has also contributed to helping others by taking on the role of the team captain for the Relay for Life for 2 years. Latoya's commitment to the town of Prescott Valley is extremely appreciated. She is a shining example for others to look to in attitude, dedication, and in every aspect of her life. Thank you for everything that you do, Latoya.
Oh, that's so nice. Thanks, y'all. I'm really happy that I found a really good family, like work family, that I've been a part of for the last 5 years. And I look forward to like 20, 30 years down the road where I'm sitting in Larry's seat. And it's going to be a real fun journey. So I'm really happy to work here. I love all the support, and thank you.
I want to challenge Latoya to bust a move.
Oh, I don't have anything prepared. I'm so sorry.
I knew that would get her. We look forward to it, and she has a partner right over there.
For those of you who don't know what they're talking about, one of my first experiences with Latoya, I was at the employee gala, and there was a woman that was out on the dance floor who would never come off the dance floor. And at one point, I asked, "Who is that?" And they're like, "Oh, that's Latoya." And also Casey, you were there too with her. But thank you for all the energy and just listening to how your employee or how people respond to you. Just says a lot, and that's huge. So a smiling face says a lot about a person. So we're going to give you a certificate of appreciation. And again, hope to see you back here in another 5 years for another one.
And Will, you can bust a move now.
Okay, maybe I'll prepare something.
Next up, Sharon Medina. You want to come up by yourself?
Sharon Medina has served our community these past 5 years with a smile on her face and true personalized service. She might say she's not much of a people person, but her actions tell a different story. Patrons will wait in line just so that she can help them out. They know she cares about them on a personal level and will offer them excellent customer service. Sharon takes the time to really know our regular patrons and her coworkers. She engages with staff and patrons alike, always asking about what's happening in their lives. Sharon is always willing to help out, whether it is taking on additional duties at work or helping community members on her own time. She has such a wonderful heart and warm personality, but never takes herself too seriously. We appreciate that her husband Roland and their 2 cats and 2 dogs share Sharon with us. Sharon truly is an asset to our library and our community.
I don't know where they got that information. I would like to say that I had what I would call a serious job for 35 years, and I retired for about 6 weeks and came to volunteer at the library. And I fell in love with the library and the people and the patrons and everything about it. And so an opening came along, and I applied, and all of a sudden it's 5 years later. And I can tell you it was like getting to eat the cake with lots of frosting. And I'm still here. So hopefully I'll come back with LaToya in 5 more years.
Yes.
Come on, Casey.
All right, our third person will be Diane Milinkovich. Come on down. There we go.
This is written by Casey.
No, Bobby.
Bobby.
Bobby wrote this.
Okay. Well, go Bobby. Anyway, Bobby says, although I've only had the opportunity to work with Diane for the last 9 months, I can safely say it's been nothing less than a pleasure. She comes in every morning with a smile on her face, and she's ready to assist any patron with any issue that they may have. While Diane started with the town 15 years ago, she brought with her a wealth of knowledge from a previous career working with the school district and hit the ground running. For the past 15 years, she has been an integral part of the library operations, was essential in the move from the Civic Center to our new building in 2009, and has cultivated lasting relationships with patrons over her 15 years of service. Diane oversees our interlibrary loans and homebound patron services, and she goes above and beyond to ensure that these patrons that utilize these services are accommodated and able to access materials that they need. Diane has exemplified what service in the library industry should be, and I can't thank her enough for all she does on a daily basis and for all the hard work she has done over the last 15 years. In addition to this exceptional achievement, I would also like to congratulate Diane on her upcoming retirement. The library will not be the same without you, but we will continue to operate at the same high standards that you have set forth during your time at the library. I can say without a doubt that all your coworkers want to wish you nothing but the best as you depart the library and begin enjoying your life after work. I know that you will be enjoying the extra time with your family, taking on other challenges and projects in your free time, and you'll finally have the opportunity to sow and share that skill set with others.
Thanks. I'm very nervous, so I'll be shaken. But I started out, I retired for 25 years from the Palm Lane Elementary School. And Stuart needed a person to fill in for one of our reference librarians whose husband was very ill. And he called and asked me, and I'd only been retired for 30 days. And I said, I don't know, Stuart, let me think about it. And I called him right back. I said, how dare I say no? I can do this. It's only for 30 days. And so here I am 15 years later. But I decided I'm going to retire. I have a new great-grandbaby, and she's so precious. And so anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing. And doing a lot of sewing. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. I love this place. I'm going to miss it. I've got all these friends, and I said to my daughter last night, am I doing the right thing? You know, but I think I am. So anyway, thank you.
Hey, Diana, a few people want to say some words. We'll start with Don this time. I know you're not used to starting first. Here we go.
All right, I'll start. Diane, 15 years, that's awesome. And the fact that you had a full career prior to that, to put in the extra 15 years, I think that's great. And the fact that you're going to be retiring soon, we just want to wish you the very best. We thank you for the 15 years that you've put in, and enjoy your grandchildren. Great-grandchildren, sorry, yeah. Well, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, so yeah, enjoy.
I just say that's awesome too, so thank you and enjoy every moment.
So our final person, 2 weeks ago we had an officer here, and his peers referred to him as the legend. Well, I think the next man that comes up here, I think we'll all agree also could take that title. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bruce Hanley.
It's quite a cheering section you have there, Bruce. All the excitement's over Bruce Hanley's 30-year service. How do we begin talking about a man who started with the town 30 years ago? I guess we'll start with him and his family. Bruce was raised in Prescott, the Prescott Valley area, his whole life. If you ever go with Bruce anywhere in the Tri-City area, you will soon find out that everywhere you go, Bruce knows someone. Bruce has raised 3 fine young men who attended school in the area and are all productive members of our community. Clinton, the oldest, has recently deployed to Kuwait. Cole works in banking, and Jake, the baby, is not such a baby anymore. He is working in the automotive field. Bruce's mom, Mary, owned and operated Pralines of Prescott, yummy, in Bashford Court for many years. She is retired now and living in Prescott. Well, I guess that's enough about Bruce's personal life. Bruce started with the town in 1989 as an equipment operator before some of his co-workers were even born. I'm not talking about age here. He has accumulated many nicknames over the years. Lovey, Brucey, and one of the town manager's favorite, just to name a few. In 1989, when Bruce started, Highway 69 and Highway 89A were still just two-lane highways. Prescott Valley had only one grocery store, a handful of restaurants, and a few paved roads. Everything else was dirt roads. Glassford Hill Road was only paved partway and did not connect to Highway 89A. The Civic Center, library, and police station as we know them today did not exist, and Town Hall existed on Bob Drive. The population of Prescott Valley was just under 10,000 at that time and has now grown close to 50,000. So not only has Bruce seen a lot of growth, he played a major role in the building of our town infrastructure, roads, and parks as we know them today. After 30 years as a town employee, Bruce is very much loved and respected by his co-workers and management. And as a matter of fact, every time our town manager takes out the motor grader to play on the weekends and decides to get it stuck or hung up on the edge of Glassford Hill, he always wants Bruce to come and save him. Not sure if that's because Bruce is such a great operator or if there is something else going on. All kidding aside, Bruce continues to assist in the training of new staff in the safe operation and maintenance of our equipment and maintains an old, tired fleet. No matter what the job is or how difficult or how long it takes, Bruce can still, to this day, be counted on to get the job done. Bruce is truly a man's man with a heart of gold that would do anything to help a friend in need. Just don't ask him in the morning. It takes him a while to wake up. Bruce, your 30 years of service to this town is truly appreciated by everyone. And here's to 30 more.
I asked him if he wanted to say something. He said no. Jim, do you normally speak for him? How does that normally work? You two are always together? Here we go. They're going to defer to Alex. And actually, if the rest of the guys can come on up too. Come on, everyone.
My retirement.
Anyone up here want to say a word about the man, the legend?
No.
I'm not real good at speaking in public, but Bruce has been. I came down the streets after inspecting here in the town for a while and took over as street supervisor. And Bruce was instrumental in helping me kind of learn things and show me a lot of stuff on the equipment. As a person, I consider him a friend, and he's. I truly don't make men like Bruce anymore. He's a hard-working man and comes to work every day, and no matter how tough the job is, he gets it done, and they just don't make him like him anymore, and I really appreciate having him on staff. So, thank you.
Well, I've known Bruce all my life. I went to, I was in Boy Scouts with Bruce. And my grandfather was really, really good friends with his father years ago. And, of course, we've always had little run-ins here and there with Bruce. But the first time I came to work for the town of Prescott Valley was 1993. And I kind of looked up to Bruce because I'm going, I don't know where anything's at, what do you guys got going here? And we had a big snowstorm at that time. And I go, and Bruce says, we got to go get signs out there. We got to close up a road. I said, okay, where are your signs? He goes, they're out there. So I go out there and I'm looking for the signs. I can't find any signs. And finally I go, Bruce, where are the signs? He goes, oh, come on, Alex, they're right here. They were buried in the snow and the weeds were about like that high, and I'm supposed to know that? Well, anyways, Bruce is one of my best friends that I've ever had. He's a wonderful man. Like Greg said, he helps everybody and he trains everybody, he's got all this young staff right here that he's actually trained for their CDLs. So it's a pleasure to work with Bruce all this time, and I hope he continues working for a few more years so we can all kind of retire together. Anyways, wonderful man. Thank you.
Ma'am?
I just want to say with age comes wisdom. And so thank you very much for being a mentor and always remain the legend.
Speak, Bruce. No. We got tissues.
30 years, that's a great accomplishment. But Bruce is another example of one of our unsung heroes. You may not see him out there because he's always working and he's always managing this mob. So I could tell you, though, that when I hit 30 years as a letter carrier, I retired. In fact, today's 10 years that happened. So I know what it's like to put in 30 years. We look forward to having you for a few more at least. And yeah, I want to put any ideas in your head. Alex will kill me. Anyway, thank you for your 30 years. I mean, it's just awesome. And, to have all your coworkers up here with you, I think that says everything about the camaraderie that we have within this town and the participation that we have. And I can honestly say that most of our staff in all departments are just like this. I mean, we have great staff and great people, and thank you. And enjoy when you do retire.
Keep me going. You hold that.
Whoa.
No, you're good. You're good.
We rock and roll.
Earthquake. All right, don't any of you move. Come here, Alex. This is a double header. Anybody recognize these guys from the snowstorm? Anybody understand what they went through? Well, we want to honor you. We want to respect you. And Alex, I'd like you to introduce every single one of them.
Okay. First of all, the hour, Mr. Bruce Hanley. This is Angel Castillas. Phil Stoneburner. Clinton Teller. We got Trevor. Trevor Stitton. I'm sorry. He's one of our new hires. We just hired him just a few weeks ago. So we got Dakota Collins, Jordan Fagelman, a well-known name, the Fagelmans. We got Jacob and Greg Bryan. Anyways, this staff was terrific, going 24 hours with the help of Parks and Rec. We have to recognize them and Mr. Josh, and I don't know why Josh isn't up here. Now, we got a facility man here that just doesn't know how not to help. I mean, he just gets in there, and he was part of the night crew. So, Josh, thank you. Great job. And like I said, the Parks and Rec, and we also have to recognize Jacobs. Jacobs went in there with our equipment and their equipment and helped clean out all our parking lots event center. They were just wonderful and terrific. I don't know why Jason Garver isn't up here, but he was a huge part of what we did out there, including Scott, who works with the utility department. Come on, Scott. Yeah, we got Jacobs. Come on, Jacobs. Come on, guys. Now, it took a full town effort, not just the Public Works, not just Parks and Rec, but engineering, the water department, Neil's group, with Scott, Jacobs, as you can see. I mean, it took an effort for us to do what we did out there for 3 days, working 24-hour shifts, night and day. Angel, he's always been a big part of our community too, and our staff. I think he's part of one of our families, so he'd like to say something.
I want to say something. I wish I could speak to all the people in this town. I shouldn't even be here tonight. I just had a triple bypass a few weeks ago. I love these guys. You are second to none, and when I feel better, I'll treat you to some coffee and donuts. And you know what? I tell you something. This was a real bad storm. And my wife just brought me home from the hospital. I said, what if I need an ambulance? Why would I think that way? Here comes Larry, LT, with this big monster machine, opening up my street. And then I said, it snows again. I got the blues, from post-surgery. And then I said, my God, more snow. These poor guys, they're in for a war. Here comes Jason. He opened up my driveway, beautiful, bless your heart. But I'm just not one. You were all in one. You were a team. You were together. You're my champions. I love you guys. Larry, thank you for having a crew like this. And God bless you. Thank you. God bless you all.
We wanted to make sure that you weren't unsung heroes, because there's many more stories like you just heard. In fact, I was snowed in for 4 days. So I just kind of watched it all and thought, I wonder if anybody will rescue me. They did. They did. Gentlemen, we have a little surprise for you that is in the process of being created. It's going to have a little piece of art on it. It might actually have a lot of humor on it because we know you guys well. So we may want you to come back when it's finished and designed, and we would like you to come back to accept it. Can I get you to honor us by saying you'll come back so that we can gift you? Now, does anybody have a unique, fabulous story to share from this event? You don't want to remember? Accept our most humble appreciation and gratitude for your deep dedication. I know it was hours and hours and days and days. You did the town proud. Feel proud within yourselves, and you're a fabulous team. And I applaud every one of you.
I have to say, we got to recognize the leaders of what happened here with our snowplow event. And I'm going to say Mr. Norm Davis led us into, he helped get us going in the right direction. Mr. Larry Tarkowski, who's sitting behind everybody, he was a very big instrumental in what we did out there for our success, and Mr. Greg Bryan. These three, the three leaders that we have right now, they got maps together, they got information together, and we ran the snow operation to the best we can. I think it was wonderful. Just wanted to recognize them too. Thank you.
I know you don't like to be thanked, but you've been royally thanked, and now we'll let you escape.
Thank you.
Sorry to steal your thunder, boys.
Somebody opened the door.
Feel it? Yeah.
And now the parade starts.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of slowly dribbled into the council comments and communications, so that's where we're at now. So
That was actually our council comments. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I actually do.
I have something after you, Marty. So.
Okay. Yeah, the noise in the background is just the parade going on. So, today I was honored and privileged to participate in Read Across America. I was at Lake Valley Elementary School. I know we had members of Fire Engine 50 reading there. We also had our Humboldt Unified School District Superintendent Dan Streeter there, and I'm sure there were others, but those are the ones that I saw that were in similar classrooms near mine. That I read to 6 different classes. I had a great time. Most of them were second graders. I even got to do it in front of a special needs classroom. So it's a fun adventure. I think it's my 3rd or 4th year participating, and it's always fun. Tomorrow I'm going to be at Coyote Springs Elementary School participating there in Read Across America. And that's always a fun school to do it in. And as a separate announcement, I just want to remind everybody, we have the Teacher of the Year coming up. It's being put on by the Humboldt Education Foundation. I'm a member of that. We are still looking for businesses or services that would like to be to help out. We're taking, anybody who wants to be a sponsor or donate something that we might use. If you're not sure what it is, please give me a call, and I will put you in touch with the right people after I hear what you have to donate. We'll take anything from gift cards to a restaurant to up to, I think, diamond level is $2,500. So there are a lot of perks that go along with it. So if anybody wants, just contact me. It's mgrossman@pvaz.net or 759-3100. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just wanted to remind everyone that as of midnight, our hands-free event becomes finable. So everyone should please pay attention to that. It's more than just finable, but driving with a cell phone gets people killed, and we've done our part to try to prevent that from happening, and we would appreciate if everyone that's driving through Prescott Valley does the same. So thank you very much.
Well said.
And if I could, our police chief, Brian Gerald, would you like to share the posting of the signs in the town right away, announcing just the same event that has been talked about?
Sure, why not? Mayor, council, so it's part of our educational campaign. We don't really want to write tickets. We'd rather not. We'd just rather have people be compliant voluntarily. But we've had the last month where we've been issuing warnings. Tomorrow we're going to start issuing violations. But as part of our educational campaign, in addition to the month, I don't know if you've seen any of them, but they went up today all over town. I think we bought 50 of them, and we put them up all over the town. So it's just another effort on our part to say, please comply with the law, because we don't want to write you tickets.
Very good. Thank you. Great. Thank you. All right, moving on to number 9, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the town council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately for discussion and possible action. Item A, approving the February 14th, 2019 council minutes. Item B, approving department reports. Item C, accounts payable. Item D, monthly financial report. Item E, approving the lease agreement with the Prescott Valley Historical Society. Item F, approving budget transfer from the contingency funds in the amount of $2,331.25 to the Police Administration operating legal services line item for public safety personnel retirement system legal fees. Item G, approving public utility easement for APS across a portion of Fane property near the entrance on 4th Street for the print pack expansion. Item H, accepting the special warranty deed for the Viewpoint Spouse Intersection Improvement Project, CIP number S168.2, parcel number 103-38-369, Evergreen Trust, Babbitt. And item I, approving the special event liquor license requested for the Prescott Valley Chamber of Commerce 2019 season.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda by electronic vote.
And I'll second that.
Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Packard?
Yes.
Passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Move on to item 10, old business for action. Second reading of ordinance number 859 by title only for the second reading approving emergency evacuation planning. Clerk, will you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 859, an ordinance of the mayor and the common council of the town of Prescott Valley, a municipal corporation of Arizona, amending section 2-02-040, powers and duties of the mayor in article 2-02, mayor in chapter 2, mayor and council of the town code to clarify that in declaring local emergencies, the mayor may open public open spaces or easements and authorize opening of gates and breaching of fences on private property for public evacuation purposes, providing that all other sections of the town code not herein amended shall remain in full force and effect, providing that if any provision in this ordinance is held invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, the remaining provisions shall not be affected but shall continue in full force and effect, and providing that this ordinance shall be effective 30 days after its passage and approval according to law.
Thank you, ma'am. Shall this pass?
That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to number 11, new business for review, comment, and/or possible action. Item A is public hearing, annexation of approximately 40,085 square feet, lying in boundary 28T14 NR1E ANX 19-001 TDH Investments LLC. Mr. Parker, I'm guessing.
Thank you, Mayor Council. This is a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing a request for annexation, a little under an acre of ground. The property was recently acquired. It used to be a church. It was recently acquired by the adjoining property owner, and he would like to annex it into the town of Prescott Valley and potentially develop the property into the future. After your public hearing this evening, we have recorded the necessary petition. We'll seek signatures on that petition, and once we have 50 plus 1% of the affected property owners, we'll come before you and ask for your consideration to annex. This is a public hearing. Mayor, I would assist in responding to questions if they come up from the audience.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open it up to the audience. Does anyone wish to have comment on this item? Doesn't look like there's any comment. Go ahead, ma'am.
I would like you all to note, if you have our paperwork, what this is going to be utilized for. It's something we don't have enough of here in Prescott Valley. It will be to establish a child care facility. And I can tell you that we are very lacking in those services here. So I'm very pleased about this.
Any other questions or comments? And if not, can I get a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, you just want to close the public hearing.
Okay. No other comments? We'll close public hearing at this time.
Mr. Mayor and Council, just to let you know, as indicated, annexation is a multi-step process. And so when someone comes and says, I'd like to be annexed, one of the first things they do is they record a proposed petition. And then they come before you with this public hearing. And if you indicate that you're okay with going forward informally, then they go out and they collect the signatures on that petition. And then they'll eventually bring that back and have an ordinance that they'll present to you as a proposed annexation. So all you were doing tonight was having your public hearing and informally letting them know if they ought to go forward with the process.
All right. So with that being closed, go on to item B. Consideration of authorizing the mayor to sign the intergovernmental agreement with Yavapai County for the Civic Drive / Skook Boulevard sidewalk / street improvement project. Sir?
Mayor, Council, it's a pleasure to be with you once again. Earlier this year, the town was awarded a $300,000 community development block grant to construct a sidewalk along Civic Drive, basically from the Valley View Apartments down to the Civic Circle intersection. That would have left a small gap between that sidewalk and the AAEC High School. And so we approached the county about their interest in partnering with us to complete that section, and I'm happy to report that they are interested, and they've placed it on their agenda for next week for consideration. So that will be a full build-out of Civic Circle along that section, including asphalt, sidewalk, streetlights. I don't know that the county has any imminent plans to develop that site, but it will allow at least children and other residents to utilize that corridor, and regardless of whether or not they develop it in the near future, it will add value to their parcels. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments from council?
About a motion. Doesn't seem to be any comments. Motion to authorize the mayor, in his absence the vice mayor, to sign the intergovernmental agreement with Yavapai County for the Civic Drive Skook Boulevard sidewalk street improvement project by electronic vote.
I will second.
Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Councilmember Packard, how do you wish to vote?
Who?
Councilmember Packard, how do you wish to vote?
Yes, it's done.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to item C, consideration of approving the award of a construction contract to the lowest responsive bidder, Earth Resource Corporation, in an amount up to $3,454,133, and approve the amendment to the town engineer agreement in the amount of $316,850.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is an item to talk about the Spouse Viewpoint construction project. What I'd like to do, though, is take a step back. This is a part of a multi-year project of the Viewpoint corridor. So I'd like to take a little time with Council and explain how this fits into this plan and actually how we're moving for the future. So I just have a few slides if I could, Mayor, so move forward with that. So here's a project sign we put up. We've actually had this sign up for a couple of weeks to advise residents in the area. This is a substantial project at Spouse Viewpoint intersection. So we put up a couple signs on the major traffic corridors there to advise people there will be some delays and get them some advance notice. But as you can see here, Dave & Associates is our design engineer. We've worked very hard with him. and we put these project signs so residents do know who they can contact if there's any concerns during construction. And you can see the coming spring 2019 we fill with the contractor's contact information. So that's actually out on site. Funding source is a 1/3 cent sales tax. Let's talk about the corridor. This is the Viewpoint Corridor, as you see depicted there. I think council has seen this one before, some of the long-term council people, but basically this corridor has been planned for many, many years to go from Highway 8090 to the Civic Center here. You can see with intersection improvements being called out there at Spouse Viewpoint, this is this particular project that we're discussing tonight. But in the past, there's been some other improvements here. A few years ago, we made the connection of Viewpoint new alignment between Skoog Boulevard up to Long Look. That's been 5 or 6 years ago. That is a multi-phase project because we only have a couple lanes now to be expanded in the future. In addition, you can see the Long Look intersection, very similar to this current intersection, done about 5 years ago. So what we're anticipating, we're widening out the historic side roads that will become stop sign conditions for this big corridor that will go all the way and connect up to Viewpoint, all the way up to the Viewpoint interchange at SR 89A. As you can see, the proposed Viewpoint Drive connector, that's under design right now. That's actually new alignment on the state land section you see there. This right-of-way has been planned for years. We actually obtained the right-of-way from state land in 2001, so getting on near 20 years, we've had this corridor planned. So that's the corridor we're looking at, and currently the project we're discussing tonight is the Viewpoint Spouse intersection. I do want to call council's attention to, as we build roadways here in Prescott Valley, we typically build for connectivity first, and then as we continue to grow, we build for capacity improvements. So I want to point out that, yes, this will be a 2-lane road initially, but ultimately you can see that 5-lane section with a separated multi-use path. That's the ultimate section. If we do continue to grow, there's no real horizon here. It's if enough trips are generated, enough population growth, this will actually be, as I point out, a twin of Glassford Hill Road. Trees in the median, 2 lanes each way. And what's nice about this corridor, we have enough right-of-way that we can actually have a separated multi-use path. So the vision of this particular corridor is for a more of a parkway setting with a separated multi-use path with access. You know, the second half of state land has been long in our planning documents to have the Agua Fria Park on the half of that state land section in the future. So we're planning a roadway improvements for access, all part of the town infrastructure planning for our residents. So just want to point out we are building a 2-lane roads with the ultimate right-of-way planned for in the future. Council's probably seen this before. This is the adjacent stormwater channel that's very integral to this design. Council may recall that we had 4 phases of this particular channel, spent about $1.5 million. This is in place today. We've shown this in the past to council, and actually this current project will tie into this project. We just got done with phase 3 in spring last year. This project, the stormwater drainage pipes, will tie into this process. So we're starting at the bottom end and working our way up so that we have continuity of the particular project. This is a good example to see what are we doing here currently. This exhibit we've added to. In the past, you saw the aerial picture from a drone photo that we got from a consultant. You can see here that this is the current project that really locally at the Spouse Viewpoint intersection, we're expanding out to the 5 lanes to give the ultimate capacity, and 3 lanes locally there at Spouse Drive. As you can see depicted in yellow, talking about the large drainage pipes that improve this floodplain corridor. You can see we're putting in 5 60-inch diameter pipes, basically a little shorter than me, but about my size, of substantial storm drainage. And you can, if I go back to the exhibit, you can see the big pipes are already in place. All this is a continuation through the Spouse intersection. So I think that depicts very well what this particular project entails. So some tight right-of-way widths there, but as you can see when we get the bids, it's around a $4 million improvement. I'll go into that here in a little more detail. But what's important to note is the different funding sources. All the floodplain, we've got funding from the flood control district of basically $1.5 million to build the adjacent channels. And actually, the roadway improvements is a 1/3 cent sales tax earmarked for Viewpoint improvements. So the funding source for this particular corridor has been 1/3 cent sales tax in the past, with flood control money to help with the stormwater management channels and the floodplain management there. I think it's always important to note with these large pipes, it's funny when you put the large pipes and the scope of this project that do want to show this is looking at the existing intersection from actually the towns. These were drone photos taken about a month ago show this is the existing Spouse Viewpoint intersection. The top photo you see there is actually looking north, the same exhibits you've seen. If you could get up there, you're looking north. And we did point out before to council that a lot of the dirt from the channel, in order to save money, it's the dirt balance that engineers work with. It's more cost effective to move the dirt to the next phases. That's why we've shown council that in the past. We've already started that, the dirt moving on a lot of that grade to build the roadway. The second picture you see down below is actually looking from Manly up towards the Civic Center. It's just a different look at that stormwater channel and looking up the corridor from a different angle, just looking towards the Civic Center. I think it's important to note, we've had some feedback. Wow, those looks like awful big pipes. This is a FEMA floodplain. And it's interesting to note we did have some substantial storms this past July. Council may recall a few years ago, the Manly intersection, we didn't have access, floated a car. That doesn't take the case, didn't have that this past July. The other thing I want to note is if you look at this corridor, the Bob Edwards Park detention basin, yes, it's a wonderful park. You talk to a drainage engineer, that's a detention basin. Well, you may recall that filled up with water and people were kayaking over the top of the soccer goals. That's how much water was in there. So there is times that this particular corridor is very substantial drainage ways, the FEMA floodplain. So lots of challenges there to upgrade the pipes. And that's what we're looking at. You can see just the scope of this particular project. We have 3 36-inch pipes crossing underneath these spouts now you can see in the picture. Well, keep in mind, those are getting bigger and substantially expanded. So undersized at this particular, and it's worked. In the past, for large storms like this, you just close the road and wait till the water recedes. Higher design standard now, in order to, with significant moving significant traffic, much higher design standard to pass a 100-year storm underneath, which requires significant design to be put into it. Let's get to the bidders. And we did send this out for local contractor interest. As I mentioned, Dave & Associates designed this project over a long time period here, worked with many adjacent property owners to integrate the design best we can and mitigate any particular impacts. We did receive 3 bids, and the lowest bid did come from local contractor Earth Resources Corporation for basically $3.4 million. Very similar to all construction contracts, we award a construction period service for survey and management of the contract, and this staff's recommendation to award a construction period services contract to Dave & Associates for $316,000 to monitor the construction of this particular project. Last slide I have for you, this is the public notice that's going out actually tomorrow. If we get a favorable vote tonight and approval, to all the adjacent residents. That's going out to 450 adjacent residents. It's a significant project. Just to let them know, we've got the signs up for a month or two. Now each individual home will get this particular individual notice about the proposed improvements, how long it's going to take, who they can contact for more information. But most adjacent residents are very aware of the project because we've been working on it for several years now to get to this point. So upon approval tonight, this will go out in the mail, and we would look forward to starting here in a week and getting this project going to be about 6 months. We would finish it up in September per current timeline. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about this particular project and how it fits in with the long-term goal of the Viewpoint Transportation Corridor.
You know, Norm, every time you come up and you give a kind of a vision of the past to where we are today, I always think about the time you took Kirk and I out in the year 2011, actually, because I just became a councilwoman. And you talked about all of this. And it's just pretty amazing because everything that we see here today was a plan 20 years easy back. And so it's exciting because I remember the conversation, I remember the drive that you took us from one end to the other, the multi-pass and all of that. And it's exciting to see today as we move forward into that. And it happened really fast. I just have to say, you know, when you were explaining it, I was like, oh, it's going to take forever, you know, but great job, you know, and it's exciting. So today, what we have today here in Prescott Valley was a plan of more than 20 years ago. And that's something to really ponder.
That's a good comment. We've always mentioned that growth pays for growth. A lot of times in my presentations, people ask, well, when is that? And I say, well, the horizon year is how quick people move here. We've got a great plan in place. You know, this corridor is in place. You can see lots of improvements going, trees, multi-use paths, parks. So as transportation integrates with other, town amenities, very much so part of our ultimate plan and very much the vision of the town and all our residents.
Yeah. Thank you, Norm.
Anyone else?
I'll make a motion if there's no other comments.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve the award of a construction contract to the lowest responsive bidder, Earth Resources Corporation, in an amount up to $3,454,133, and approve the amendment to the town engineer agreement in the amount of $316,850 for construction administration services by electronic vote.
Do we have a second?
I'd glad to second. It'll let me.
Clerk, go ahead and call the vote, please.
It passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to item D, consideration of approving the amendment to the town engineer agreement for Dava and Associates in an amount of $208,950 for the Viewpoint Drive at Spouse Drive intersection improvement, CIP numbers S168.2.
Yes, Mayor, Council. The item you have before you is still related to this Spouse Viewpoint intersection. What the item you have before you and capitulated here and tabulated here is extra design costs that we incurred in order to complete the design. You don't typically see this because typically we're able to get a tight scope from the design engineer on what the scope would be, and they deliver that scope and professional services. The challenge we had, and that's why I took some time with this particular project, was there was lots of design constraints on this particular project. The biggest one we had is that the existing design geometry of Spouse Drive is very low design speed. Well, when you raise that design speed up to move the traffic, ultimately we move on Viewpoint Drive, the existing geometry proved problematic because there's a big dip to get through the drainage area. Well, quite simply, cars can get lost. If you have a stop condition, cars will get lost in that particular. You would miss them and you would have rear ends. Well, if you're going to be attentive to the ultimate design consideration, you've got to design for that. What's that mean for the design engineer? We have to raise that intersection about 3.5 feet. What that meant when you raise the intersection up, it's an existing neighborhood that's been around since, platted in the 70s. You've got adjacent properties. Typically, you can mitigate that easily, but this particular case was what we found when we raised the roads up 3 feet was if the roadway catch slopes would catch on the private properties. So you can't put the dirt out to their front doors, so to speak. Well, so that was the original scope. And so what the engineer comes up with is, we can't do that. So we come up with the wall design in order to hold it within the right-of-way. And keep in mind, you've got the 60-foot right-of-way of Spouse. You would have to have property takes if you were going to do something different. So the original design for the scope that the engineer did his job was to put up walls. Well, a couple properties is quite simple. We'll go back to. Is a couple properties. Basically, this is some of the adjacent properties we had to deal with at the intersection. There was 13-foot tall walls and 10-foot walls on adjacent properties. Basically, it looked like a fort. I guess if you're 10 years old, that's kind of cool. You've got a house and you've got a 10-foot tall concrete wall, 150 feet long around your property. That works. That's a tight design scope. Well, obviously, we have a design done, and then you start negotiating with the property owners, and they said, that is not going to work, obviously. So that's where I work very, very close with Dave and Associates, Gordon Bowers, of course, to say, how are we going to make this work? So really what I had to do was each individual property owner we had to go to and say, how are we going to make this work? We can't change the design of the roadway to make it safe for the public. How do we mitigate on your property? What that means is many, many iterations with the design engineer. You can't get a tight scope. We had to actually do 5 different plans for many of these particular properties, and that takes a significant amount of time. You meet with a homeowner, they don't live in my world, and they say, what are you going to do? And I say, well, I'm going to fill your front yard with dirt. And they say, well, we got some talking to do, my friends. So that's why we had a longer timeline here than originally planned. But what we did do was get success with every property owner. As you see tonight on the consent agenda, one of the last property owners, we reached a resolution, but not before we have many, many iterations. What I'm taking time to tell you is typically we ask for a scope ahead of time. It's tight from the engineer. Well, when you're negotiating, I would come back to you many times over, and it's open-ended. So with the great design capability of Gordon Bowers, we're able to meet the mutual resolution with each property owner out there, but it's hard to scope. So really what we're looking at is the design had to go on, and we had to meet resolution with all these particular people. So as part of even the construction contract, we're taking dirt and the contractor moving on these properties. So we've got the confidence of the people and have permits through our community development department that we're going to actually fill their properties and meet their needs. Well, that's taken many iterative processes, as I mentioned, to get mutual resolution to say, yes, I'm happy with the dirt you're going to put on my property. And it's quite substantial, 13 to 15 feet of dirt in your front yard of what you're used to be in your front yard. Many iterations, as I say, had to go through to say, okay, that makes sense to me, and I'm happy with that. And so we had to do that for many properties out there. And actually, with the grade changes, many driveways changed to steeper grade. We had to redo plans. That doesn't work. Thank you for showing it to me, but that's not going to work. And we had many iterations even on the geometry that Dave and Associates had to do for the roadway geometry for access to make sure we don't have any property takes. The real success we've had is all 10 property owners, we've come to successful mutual resolution. What that meant was significant design time and iterations of plans and paying for those plans in order to get to the point we can to say, yes, we're going to have a successful project. And when we're done, the adjacent properties have said, you did what we told or we agreed to early on.
Okay, and Mayor and Council, just to put a point on that, we have a long history, 30 years that I'm aware of having direction from Council to not go in and condemn property unless absolutely necessary. And so the time that Mr. Davis is talking about is very consistent with the direction of this body for all these years, that we don't go in, play big government, just hand them a note saying, we're condemning your property. We work with individual property owners to make sure that everybody is as happy as can be when going ahead and doing a major project like this.
That's the first two items there. Of course, the second item you see here, the $41,000 for private property settlements, that is the individual right on the property having to redo all their driveways on many of them. That's 10 individual properties. Utility coordination, significant utilities in this particular corridor had to relocate. What Dave and Associates was able to do was actually get an as-built. When we hand them a plan, you saw the significant pipes. There's not much room left when you put big pipes in. This was for them to go out and double-check the utility work that work independently from us to make sure that when we start this $4 million project and have lots of new installation, that all of those things have been thought about and actually worked in, because very difficult to work with the 4 to 5 independent utility companies to get them to get that data in a manner that we're very confident we're not going to have the unforeseens that can happen when a contractor's waiting and it's going to give you a change order and say, look, I've been held up or I have to relocate things. So that's utility coordination of just working with utilities and getting the plans squared away and making sure when we start work there's no unforeseen conditions. And the new water and sewer design was when you do a significant corridor like this, that's the new water and sewer lines we're going to put in for additional capacity. And also when you put in the significant drainage improvements, when you have the storm events like we talked about that fill up the detention basin and run that corridor, you don't get any particular washouts, and the utilities are encapsulated and thought about. So we won't have any service disruptions of different means. And that's actually, if you look at the RFCA, that's some of Neil Wadsworth's input. In addition to any project, we work closely with Neil's group to make sure the water and sewer improvements are integrated so that once we get a project done, all of your public infrastructure is thought about. That's what we have. It's a condition that we typically don't come to council and ask after the fact, but under the circumstances, we got very good success. And actually, the end result of this $208,000 actually is well within what would be expected for a rehabilitation project, for what you can expect for design costs to make sure you get a good design and actually accommodate. And I want to use the term, mutually agreed resolution with all these private property owners out there. They are happy with the end resolution. Just took us a while to get there. Any questions I can answer?
Did you have a magic wand to do that?
It takes patience, but the first blush is, wow, you're kidding me, And I said, well, we got work to do, and I do want to thank all 10 property owners. They're not, a lot of them were commercial properties, but they do have a vested interest in their property. But what I'm most happy with when we're done, we say, you did what you said you're going to do, and it's huge change, but it's change that we've accommodated for the best.
Any other questions? No questions? Motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment to the town engineer agreement for Dava and Associates in the amount of $208,950 by electronic vote.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Clerk, will you please call the vote?
That passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor,
Mr.
Council.
Davis. Moving on to item 12, comments from the public. Consideration and discussion of general unscheduled comments from the public. Those wishing to address the council need not request permission in advance. Any such remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any member thereof. Such remarks shall be limited to 5 minutes unless additional time is granted by the mayor. At the conclusion of the unscheduled comments, individual members of the council may respond to the item addressed at the discretion of the mayor, or they may ask the town manager to review the matter or ask that the matter be placed on a future agenda. So to be clear, we won't be responding back to any questions. So this is the audience time to give us 5 minutes of what's on their minds. So with that being said, oh, well, hang on, ladies first.
Deborah Williams, resident, mayor, council, town staff. I sometimes ask myself, why do I come to council meetings? And I just want to say I know why. Because each time I come, I leave with so much more. Tonight, again, the way you commended our staff in our recent storm and honored your staff for their employment. I'm more proud today than ever to be a resident of this community and will continue to do so. The outpour is so genuine and so kind. We have so much to be proud of, and it's because of all of you and your leadership and your words of wisdom, and I'm just inspired every day and stand before you to thank each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Rob S. and I'm a Pronghorn Ranch resident. I think you all know that, but that's for the record. First, I'd like to begin on a positive note. I'm not sure that when we honoured all the people that did all the work during the big snowstorm, it was made explicit that I gather that our town manager spent, if I did the calculation right, 2 17-hour days as a snow-ploughed driver. And I think that is amazing public service. And I've thanked him privately, and I would like to be public about it and pass. I'm only allowed to talk through you, Mr. Mayor, but pass on my thanks and that of my neighbours to Larry Tarkowski for that. Now, during that pleasant chat that I had with him, I did warn him that I was still going to be fighting on various planning and zoning issues. I do appreciate the fact that Mr. Tarkowski passed on to me a copy of his memo to you, Mr. Mayor, February 19, which was copied to all the council members. And while I was extremely disappointed in the contents of it, and we'll go into a bit of that, it was nice to finally learn the outcome of the investigation that you asked for, Mr. Mayor. You will recall that I raised some ethics issues regarding ex parte communication and bias by both the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Matt Zurcher, and town planning staff. Mr. Tarkowski's memo responded to my complaints, but essentially it dismissed them. In doing so, however, I believe it missed the point and landed up, therefore, being somewhat misleading. I'm here to tell you why and to ask you, if you want to modify the town's code of conduct accordingly. First, for the benefit of those who may forget the original complaint, a quick summary. We were startled to learn that Phoenix businessman David Maguire, who's been seeking land use approvals from the town, was forwarded our memo intended for concerned homeowners by Mr. Zurcher and town planning staff. By the way, Mr. Tarkowski's memo says he accepts that. We now have written evidence from a records request that is what happened. Now, in so doing, that enabled Mr. Maguire to do a point-by-point response to the council of our strategic messaging, even before we could deliver that to messaging to the council, and it didn't tell the council where it came from. And we considered this a violation of the Town Code of Conduct, which calls for the highest ethical standards for town employees and appointees. And in rejecting my complaints, Mr. Tarkowski's memo spends much time analysing the law to justify this one-sided communication by representatives of the town. And it says that the high standards for town employees and citizen volunteers need to be considered in the context of complying with applicable federal, state and local laws, ordinances and regulations. That was a quote, by the way. Can this really be the highest standard? Arizona has very lax laws regarding ex parte communication and bias. Isn't complying with the law actually the absolute minimum standard, not the highest standard? You know, for heaven's sake, we all need to comply with the laws. Otherwise we're breaking them. And the town's code of conduct purports to be a higher standard than the minimum required by law. Now, if the council agrees with the thrust of Mr. Tarkowski's memo, I recommend that the Code of Conduct be modified to state accurately what it means under those circumstances, and that it should say legal, moral, and ethical standards of honesty, integrity, and fairness are to be practiced in the conduct of town affairs at a level sufficient merely to satisfy the absolute minimum legal standards, unquote. That would be ridiculous. It's silly. Surely that isn't what you mean by the town's code of conduct. And if you were to agree with me, surely the investigation needs to be reopened, taking that into account. Let's not talk about the highest standards, because they're not complied with if the only standard is the lowest. May I have about 30 more seconds? Okay. By the logic in the memo, there's no problem with town representatives having one-sided contacts with those doing business with the town, but it would be at the expense of citizens like us who are exercising our right to participate in local government. And government, I love saying this as a US citizen, by and for the people, is not intended to be government for certain people. Please think about it as you consider the true meaning of the Code of Conduct, and consider whether you feel that the standards against which the behaviour should really be judged ought to be higher than the absolute minimum legal, and therefore in accordance with the actual wording of the current code. Thank you. And thank you for your service again, Mr. Tarkowski. I know I'm not allowed to say that, really, but...
Thank you, sir. Next.
My name is Dave Wallace. I'm a resident of Prescott Valley. Last month, they made a public information request for all emails containing the words Maguire, David Maguire, Matt Zurcher, Viewpoint, LLC, and Antelope Park for the period July 1st, 2018 to January 14th, 2019. I did receive approximately 120 emails as a result of my request. After examining the emails provided me with Mr. Rob Essen, chair of our concerned residents, we noted that there were at least 6 emails we had obtained from previous sources that met the criteria given to the town and the records request, and in no way could be considered confidential, that were not supplied to the town as a part of our request. I then inquired of the records department as to the completeness of my request. It was represented to me by the Records Department that the Records Department forwards the request to the appropriate department, and individuals respond back to the Record Department's request. This procedure gives employees the ability to exclude any email based on personal preference and prevents the Record Departments from identifying all the records that must be reviewed for production as recommended and the best practices by the custodians of public records provided by the State of Arizona Ombudsman. We wonder why the town would subject itself to the risk of an incomplete search by not having a policy that requires a database search. In addition, we can't help but think that basic internal controls can be violated when an individual can override these controls by omitting requested emails. We now know that the town claims it cannot do a database search for email servers for this information, so the public may never know if the population of provided emails is complete. Several emails were redacted partially and in whole. While we respect the town's need for confidentiality, the Ombudsman's best practices recommends that the custodian provide an explanation for the grounds of any withheld records or redactions. We received no such explanations. The law specifically indicates that a custodian must demonstrate specific reasons and good faith basis for denying access to an entire record rather than redacting just the confidential portions. I found the Records Department to be very helpful in providing timely responses. Obtaining complete responses from the town department certainly seems to be another matter and contrary to the town's code. It would appear to me that the town needs to improve the best practices when it comes to public records. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Linda Mast. I live at 7905 North Paradise Canyon Lane. And like our first speaker, I have to say that I'm inspired by our community, and it was really great to hear all the folks that have been honored. Mayor Pelguda, Vice Mayor Nye, members of the council, I have a brief comment. At the January 17th work study on evacuation plans, if I'm not mistaken, we had a commitment from staff that there would be public hearing and further details on a full evacuation plan on February 28th. That's tonight. I was a bit disappointed, to say the least, that the ordinance, which is a good plan, is a short-term solution, I would say maybe a Band-Aid, giving the mayor the authority to have provisions to open private property for evacuation. We haven't completed the obligation that was the commitment made at that meeting. Our fire chief clearly stated that we're in the right direction, but it's not complete. He expressed in his letter that he's not satisfied that this is a long-term solution, but something for the short term. I haven't heard what the plans are for the community's evacuation plan and further study. There was no discussion about that tonight. And I am just concerned that it gives the impression of a lack of transparency. I don't believe that that is the intention of our council, but that's what it appears. And when there's no reference to letters that are received, either by our police chief or fire chief, at the last meeting, I know Council Member Grossman made a brief comment about that, but it wasn't discussed. So those letters were provided at the last meeting. You also received letters from members of the community. They're never referenced, which is somewhat of a surprise to me from past experience. Usually they may not be read in detail, but there may be something that's reflected, either that the clerk or a staff's report would say we've received 10 letters from the community, either in support or there's just never any mention made. So I just want to make that comment. And I would like to propose that I want to thank Mr. Tarkowski for referencing the contributions of an alum of the Citizens Academy for bringing forward the issue of evacuation needs for the community. And I would like to respectfully request that there be a committee appointed to really look into this that has membership from the community, maybe an alum from the Citizens Academy, that really can make this a more transparent process for the community. Thank you.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, tonight was one step of many, which includes a public hearing and receiving that input from the affected communities. Tonight just strengthened the power of the mayor for an emergency declaration and honing in on the evacuation side of an emergency declaration. It's still a work in progress. So,
anyone else? With that being said, can we have a motion for number 13, adjournment?
So made.
We have a second?
Need a second.
I'll second that.
Please call the vote, ma'am.
Passes unanimously, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night, everyone.